Parents, buckle up because today's episode is the game changer you didn't even know you needed. If you've ever wondered how functional medicine and holistic nutrition can actually support your neurodivergent kiddos beyond the generic eat healthy, sleep well advice, you are in for a treat. Joining us today is the powerhouse of ADHD parenting wisdom, Dr. Lauren Davis. She's not just another expert. Dr. Davis is a board-certified functional medicine practitioner, a holistic nutritionist, and a relentless advocate for neurodivergent families. She has spent years helping parents like us decode the gut-brain connection, balance wild energy levels, and actually optimize our kids' health in a way that works with their ADHD brains and not against them. So, if you've been frustrated by traditional advice that doesn't quite fit your child, or if you're tired of the trial and error guessing game of parenting a neurodivergent kiddo, this episode is your lifeline. Grab your coffee, get cozy, and let's dive into this eye-opening, myth-busting, and sanity-saving conversation with the incredible Dr. Lauren Davis. Dr. Lauren Davis, welcome to Chaos and Caffeine.
Thank you for having me, Danielle.
Thank you. So I have to ask everyone, I know your husband just brought it in, what is in your cup?
It is chai tea with mushrooms.
I see a lot of people going to that, the mushroom.
I love it.
Interesting. I am not brave enough yet, but hopefully one day I can try it as an alternative. So I want to start with the basics. What even is functional medicine? And how do you differ from the usual, here's a pill, good luck approach?
So, functional medicine is really looking for the root cause or causes of an issue. So, instead of covering up symptoms that you're having with a bucket diagnosis and a pill to take for the rest of your life, we want to go back to when it started, really identify what that cause was for you. And as an osteopath, I do that from a little bit different of a lens. In osteopathic medicine, we're taught that the body is a triune of body, mind, and spirit, and that one can affect the other. So when we're doing this, it's not just lifestyle. It's actually looking to see if there's anything else energetic, anything else in your life that is that root cause trigger. Was it a transition at work? Was it something in your identity shift? Was it something in your beliefs that really started this? That's now in the subconscious that we need to process to make a difference in your life.
And if you go back to the root cause and it is genetics, what then?
So when we look at genetics, there are a ton of different things that influence our genes. We can have a genetic abnormality that is never uncovered because of what are called histones. So even though the genes are there, the expression of those genes may have had a trigger. And when we can resolve that trigger, we can improve health and we can improve how you respond to that. Even though we know you're prone, how can we help you adapt and overcome in a way that's beneficial and best for you?
I love that so much. And I don't want to skip over. I love the mind, body, spirit, the total package. That is my jam. I'm completely with that.
Yes.
I know you are a mom raising one, possibly two later down the line, neurospicy children. What has been the biggest game changer for you in your parenting, ADHD parenting?
So, yeah, both my husband and I are physicians. We met in med school. Neither one of us was ever formally diagnosed, even going through med school and residency, until we had our kids. So our first is more autistic than ADHD. And he is what we call our observer. So he looks at everything and he does not miss a single detail of the world around him. Our second hasn't stopped moving since he was in the womb. So I'm sure he will be an ADHD leaning kid. That is still yet to be completely identified. He's still almost 15 months old now. So what we have tried is a whole bunch of different things. So I am a DO physician. I've studied integrative medicine at the Andrew Weil Center. I've studied functional medicine through the Institute for Functional Medicine. I've studied longevity medicine through A4M. I've studied acupuncture. I've studied all of these different things. But until we got to hypnosis, actually, we didn't make a huge difference in what we were seeing with our
Mm.
kids. So it wasn't until we really understood the language patterns that affect the brain. It wasn't until we understood that the subconscious mind has all of these triggers that are outside of our conscious thought that we have had the biggest impact in how we relate to each other as a family.
That is, so that's like one of my favorite questions is to ask, what led you to this work? And so far, I think it's like 95, 96% is I had a kid who was diagnosed with ADHD, but then also I was diagnosed after that. And it is a very
Yes.
common trend here on chaos and caffeine. So you are not alone in that. And how did hypnotherapy change your parenting? I know you said that there was different things that you had to recognize. What did that change in your daily lives?
So for us, it was really seeing how our interactions were causing triggering of our
Mm,
behaviors. For my oldest son, he has a PDA profile. Simple questions to him are assaulting to his nervous
mm,
system. And learning to use the language and learning to help give him tools that he can actually do self-regulation at 6.5, almost 7 now, that he can start on his own when he feels himself being triggered and bring himself into his body. And all of the things that we had tried with meditation, that we had tried with other modalities that didn't work as well as giving him self hypnosis
mm.
tools.
And that is impressive. I am 40 and just started working on my nervous system probably 4.5 years ago, and I'm nowhere near where I would like to be. So that is extremely impressive to me.
Well, I think as we all discover that we have a different brain, that we are of a different makeup in a society that's really not designed for us, right? How do we set ourselves up for optimal health and wellness?
Yeah.
And how do we adapt to that world in a way that's healthy and beneficial for us and not in a way that's beneficial to the world in the way that it wants us to be and not that we can be of our best
Yeah.
service?
I love that so much. So I know our listeners are dying to know what is some of the biggest myths that you dive into or that you drive you absolutely insane. I'll take both spectrums.
So we absolutely 100% know that the brain is functionally different for anyone on the neurodivergent spectrum. To think that there is a way to reverse it, to think that there is a cure for it, to me is the worst disservice we
Mm,
can do for ourselves. To think that there is something that is wrong that needs to be fixed, right, is a disease process instead of it is a way of being and a way of relating to the world around us that can have health and benefit and can be of service to society because we think differently, right? We think out of the box. We make these wonderful connections. And that's what we do with our kids. We homeschool our kids because we don't want the pathologic imprint to be put on them at a young age to think that there's something wrong with them. Of course, we can tell them that they're different, right? They think differently than maybe the rest of the world, and that can be absolutely beautiful.
yeah. So my son was diagnosed in first grade, and it really started stemming from, I'm a bad kid or, things like that. And that was so heartbreaking. And, I've talked to multiple year teachers now, let's use positive redirection. This may not be the best technique, but we have started to make light of the fact that we don't fit in the box and how boring it would be to fit in. Never saying that to our classmates who do fit in the box, of course, but that is really one of the biggest things that I've come across. I would rather him think, that he's magical than that there's something broken in him. And that was really hard for us to
Yes.
repair once that started happening. And, I kind of told him, like, you're not supposed to sit on a carpet for an hour and a half. That's not what kids are designed to do. So if you can't do that, like, there's no pressure there. It is completely set up to mold them into, model citizens that follow the rules. And that is just not how our brains work. So that was very challenging for us.
Yes. It is one of the main reasons why we homeschool. My husband and I both can point back to issues in school that just made us feel
Yeah.
not quite human, right? That made us feel less than everyone else. And to have that interaction with the world, to internalize that at such a young age before you can really understand that no, it's just a different way of thinking, right? We don't develop that skill until we're
Yeah.
late into our teens. And how can we expect that executive function of these little kids to sit there and to sit in a classroom for hours on end, processing maybe in a way that their body
Yeah.
isn't designed to? So a lot of the hyperactivity comes with kinesthetic learning. So they need to be moving, they need to be climbing, they need to be doing other things in order to learn. And I think we find that as adults, even, right? I do some of my best learning. I can't sit and listen to a lecture or anything else without having something in my hands. I'm one of those people that goes to conferences with a crochet project in my lap or something to do with my hands to actually make me focus on what's being said.
So much, yes.
And even fidgeters and everything else, they last for a certain amount of time before there's a boredom component that comes in and we need something new, novel, and we tell our kids that that's okay. That's the way their brain is designed. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if we need a 15-minute break to get up and move our body, we do a squat break in our house every 45 minutes. We get up, we do 10 squats, and then we go back to what we're doing because it just helps keep us a little bit more focused.
Yeah. I love that. I had a local librarian. She saw me checking out, you know, all of the ADHD books. And she said, "Can I tell you something?" And I said, "Sure." She said, "When my son was smaller, I let him take his Game Boy to church, and everyone, judged me." She said, "But when his hands were busy, he could hear the sermon. And I knew he was taking it all in because he would giggle at the right time. He would stand up or clap at the right time." She was like, "So don't let anyone judge you for what you have to do." And I was like, I hope you tell it that story to everyone who checks out these books. That is
Yes,
powerful.
it is.
The universe has placed these random people into my life at just the right time. So you're deep in both the worlds of science and motherhood. Tell me, what role does gut health, nutrition, and hormones play in ADHD?
Whew, that's a big one.
It is a big one.
So there are a ton of things, and when we talk about the gut-brain connection specifically, we know that 80% of our serotonin is made outside of the brain, and a lot of it travels through the blood. There's regulatory processes that happen within the microbiome, that there's different basically chemicals that the microbes send that help change the brain. And when we see different types of bacteria that are overgrown or dysbiosis, they relate to the brain in a certain way. So they can actually cause cravings. They can cause a lot of the symptoms of unregulated, right, dysregulated ADHD just by having high sugar, right? Sugar in the gut feeds a lot of the dysbiotic microbes. When we don't have enough fiber, when we see the kids that are really picky eaters and aren't getting fiber into the gut, we see the same thing happen because that connection, they get used to that feedback in their brain from the disbalanced microbiome. So the sooner we can intervene in a microbiome, the better. And that really starts from first contact out of the womb as breastfeeding, right? We get mom's microbiome. So it's not quite surprising that We see mom and kid connection with ADHD and neurodivergence. Um, and a lot of the same symptoms that happen around the same times because our microbiomes are so similar from living together.
Looking for some new toys and tools that your ADHD kiddos will love? Play Therapy Supply has you covered with a great selection of toys, games, and fidgets that can be used by ADHD children, their parents, caregivers, and professionals alike. From fidget toys that help children calm down, de-stress, and focus, to social emotional learning resources to help kids understand their feelings and emotions, to games and activities designed to improve emotional regulation. Play Therapy Supply has it all. For thousands of items and fast and free shipping, visit playtherapysupply.com today. So, say a child is obsessed with goldfish. Is that sabotaging our impulse control?
So let's dive a little bit deeper into what they're craving about the goldfish,
Okay.
right? So is it salt? Is it really regulating stress hormones? Because salt does that. Is it the crunch? Is it the texture? Is it the taste? Or is it the additives that are in there? And
Mm-hmm.
all of those are things that need explored and just questioned out of curiosity with our kids. So if we see our kid is stuck on a particular snack, for my son, it's usually peanut butter and jelly. He wants peanut butter and jelly on every form, on a bagel, on bread, on celery when I make him pick a healthier option. Doesn't matter. So I ask him, I'm like, what about the peanut butter is it that you like today? Right? Some days it's just creamy and it tastes good. Okay, is there something else you can think of that would meet that need right now? Oh, well, I guess I could have, almond butter. I guess I could have a smoothie if you made a smoothie with peanut butter in it, right? There are healthier options to get that particular thing. Is it that they're craving a micronutrient within that and they're really looking for those nutrients? Is it because historically things that have crunched, like bones, have a lot of minerals in it and they're craving that stimulation, that oral stim from the crunch of the goldfish cracker? All of those things are potential reasons for that behavior. But until we can identify what it is on that particular day, we can't know for sure.
Interesting. I will definitely dive into and see if I can pull something out of him. Why this snack, or, what is it?
And a lot of times, their intuition is guiding them towards something that's similar to what might have been, right? As we were hunter and gatherers. So if we can tie it back to a similar thing, but sometimes it's just simply the food additives that are in there because they change the biochemistry of the brain. They're now getting dopamine hits from having a combination of fat and carbohydrate, which increases the regulation in the brain, that increases the reward feedback system when we combine a fat and a carb.
Interesting. I had never went that deep into it before, but I will now.
And it's just getting curious, right? It's just being like, hey, what do you like about that today? Oh, the
Yeah.
salt tastes really good. Oh, let's think of 10 other salty things that we could have that would meet this because you already had goldfish crackers today, right? You already had a handful of pretzels. Can we get salted pistachios? Would those be really good? And it's just getting curious about what exactly they're willing to open up and eat.
Because for us, I need to dive into it deeper because for us in our household, anxiety is ever present. And I know that that is directly related to gut health. So thank you for going in deep because I really benefited from that. I think I could do some detective work in there.
Even for us, right? Even for us, when we are stress eating about something, when we're reaching for a snack or we've had the same thing for dinner now 3 or 4 nights in a row, because that's typical of people on the neurodivergent spectrum, just get curious. What exactly is it about this food, this meal? What is it? Is it that I'm comforting something? Can I comfort myself in a different way today? Can I comfort myself just by changing my thought process around this thing that I'm anxious about? Right? Anxiety is is looking back at the past and looking at the what we should haves. Fear is looking at the future and the what could be's. When we ground ourselves in the present moment, a lot of that goes away.
Yeah. Not to go off on a tangent or down the rabbit hole because I will, so bring me back.
I will too, so we'll just keep going.
So I'm not sure your opinion on this, but so many parents get stuck on meds versus no meds debate. How do you approach that conversation in your practice?
So, what I look at first is how disruptive are the behaviors and how quick do we need to fix this, right? What is going on? Is this becoming almost a self-destructive thing for the child or for
Mm,
the adult that I'm treating? Or do we still have time and space to work on this holistically? Right. And my goal is always to use the minimum amount of interventions, even when they're holistic interventions. So there are risks and benefits to everything. The risk of unmedicated ADHD is high, right? We know ADHD people are more accident prone. We know ADHD people have a shortened lifespan because of those accidents, right? We're more likely to walk away from a stove burner and leave it on. So we're more likely to have house fires. We're more likely to have um, anything else, car accidents from driving, from being distracted. So, can we get symptoms down enough with holistic interventions to be functioning the way that we need to be? Or are these things more harmful to us? So it's really starting with that conversation and weighing the risks and benefits for each individual family. If someone is completely against medications, my goal is to support their decision and to give them the best outcome with no matter what choice someone else makes. Because I see my job as a physician as information keeper, right? I should be able to rattle off the statistics to give you both sides of the argument, and then to let you come to your own decision. Because no matter what I say, I think would be best for someone else, I don't have to live
yeah.
their lived experience. If someone gets up every day and says, oh, I effing hate taking this medication, right? And that's changing their mindset around something that may be helpful to them, that's not going to be a great intervention, right? Using herbals, using something else that they're saying, oh, I'm so glad that I found another way. That mindset shift to me is the most
Mm.
important thing that we can make, as opposed to any physiologic intervention, because our thoughts and the way that we hold our body, right, our actual posture can change the physiology of our body. We know that thoughts now, Joe Dispenza's done some great work, that our thoughts, we can increase the telomere length. So we can actually change our DNA with simply changing our mindset. And diving deep into that mindset work is really what I think is most beneficial for people with ADHD and autism.
I love that so much. I cannot think of the book that I listened to by him, but it was mind blowing.
Yes.
Give him a quick shout out, but I can't think of the name. But I listened to it on audiobook and like I remember stopping at some parts of his research and was just I had to pause, I'm walking around. I'm like, that's impressive. I'm trying to impress upon my child all of these things, but right now he's like, Mom, you're just so weird. But I hope that it like sinks in so he can remember it later.
It's finding, right? It's finding the self-discovery moments that are the most important because when someone else comes to the same conclusion, right, they may need different information than I needed, right? They may walk a little bit different of a path, but to be close-minded because they've heard blah, 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 right? I swear we sound like the peanut people to our kids, right? So everything we can talk about for hours with them, and they'll still not hear it as well from us as they will from someone else. So having the conversation, not to them, but talk to like another mom friend about their kid and let them overhear that conversation because them overhearing the information is sometimes more powerful than us
Yeah.
talking it to them.
Yeah. And I am a talker, chit chatter. I ramble on and on. So, like, really trying to hone it in. Like, he can only hear one to two things you're saying, max. So, stop babbling and just tell him what you want, and maybe tell him what you want in one quick why, and then, keep it moving. But I'm working on that.
I I was studying to give lectures to med students because that's something else that I do. But what I heard there kind of changed everything that I do is that people will only take away 10% of whatever you teach them. So they'll take away the one or two most important things to them. And even though the information may be there, it may not have been the time
Yeah.
or the space for them to learn that. And when it comes to ADHD and autism and our life, we're ready to receive the information that we're
Yeah.
ready to receive.
For sure.
And I try not to get upset about it. I try not to hold grudges or be mad or say, oh, I told you this, right? It just
Yeah.
wasn't received. It's my job. NLP teaches us it's my job to frame the message in a way that it can be received by someone else. And that I think is the beauty of hypnosis and NLP is learning the language patterns to say the same message in 30 different ways so that you can pick out the best one that's going to be received by our kid in that moment.
I love that. 30 different ways. Oh, that's good. I guess along those lines, maybe sticking with that same theme, what's one outside of the box intervention or strategy that you've seen really move the needle for our families?
So I think coming at anything with curiosity and playfulness will move the needle far faster with anyone or any neurodivergent person. So let me think of an example. So yesterday, my son's friend was coming over to play. His best friend is another ADHD autistic kid who's about a year older than him. They both get homeschooled, right? We have to get homeschool done. I tell them we have to get stuff done before we can play with our friends, right? It only takes him 45 minutes to get school done. It's
Yeah.
not like it's a hard question, right? Oh, mom, I don't want to do this today. I can't do this. And I can't do this before Ben gets here. I have to see Ben. Oh, what do you think Ben would like about this question? What do you think Ben would like about this lesson? Oh, I can tell Ben about the insects. Oh, what else can you learn about insects? Can you learn three more things about insects that you can tell Ben when he gets here today? Oh, I think I want to draw a picture of an insect. Oh, great. That's your next lesson here. Perfect. Why don't you draw a picture of an insect? And then you can share all of that with Ben when he gets here. And just getting curious and playful and asking him to do things in a playful way instead of getting stern and saying, you have to do this right now because I'm your parent. And it makes no difference to anyone else, right? If our boss tells us you have to get this done by 5 p.m., oh, you come do it yourself, right?
Yeah. I love that. And I swear I have dove into self development strictly, to become a better mom for this kid. And like, I'm good, like the first 75%. And then like the last 25, I'm like, just do it, please. Like, just do it. And he's like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, well, what's hard about it? And then like by the end of whatever assignment is, we're both, dysregulated and mad at each other.
So remember, there's like 25 to 30% of neurodivergent people that get the most dopamine from the fight. So engaging in the battle is giving them dopamine.
That is probably me.
So if we can switch that trigger to something else in their day, right, to give them what they need, deep pressure is one of the best things to give dopamine. So a hug can be one if we have touchy-feely kids. If not, a hammock swing, a sensory swing, letting them do something like a weighted blanket to give a ton of dopamine without having to engage in the fight. It's one of the best first switches that I recommend to my patients because it's easy, it's simple, And the minute we can walk away from the fight, it's better for us mentally and it's better for them because they're not going to learn that dopamine comes from the fight and interaction.
I just realized that I'm part of the 25 to 30% and that he probably got that from me. So there's that. Huh. That is
That's
something to
that's
think
that's
about.
what I think the PDO profile
Yeah.
is, right? So persistent demand for autonomy is the way I like to think of it. I don't think of it as demand avoidance, right? It's the need to be heard, seen, felt in the world and to make my own choices.
Yeah.
So if I'm saying just do it to someone else, it's because that's what I'm feeling needs to happen, but that's not the only path forward that's going to get me to that outcome. So can I choose to step onto a different path that may be a little different, maybe a little uncomfortable at first, but is going to get to the same outcome in a way that actually feels better for my body?
That is so good, and I am using that this evening at 3:30.
Yep.
That is so good. Man, I have learned so much just in this one interview. You're amazing. So, if there's one thing that you wish every ADHD or every AUDHD parent understood about their kid's brain like yesterday, kind of like I'm learning now, what would that be?
I would say that most of us get lost in the details. So if we need something detailed, if we need our kids to do something, we have to give them the big picture. For example, that could be morning routine. If we're looking at getting ready in the morning, for most people with ADHD and autism, having a list of 20 or 30 things that need to get done stepwise is going to be daunting. But for a lot of these kids, they need the routine and actually seeing it in front of them in a list form helps to regulate their brain a little bit more so that they know what needs done before they get to X reward. So we always want to put the fun thing at the end of that checklist, big bright box, stars around it, whatever we want to do to motivate us to get through those tasks that need to be done. And when we're having low motivation days, right, what things can we cross off that list that really aren't essential? And try to tailor it to what our bodies need for that day, right? So this morning, I'll give you an example. My husband and I, he worked extra this weekend. He picked up a few shifts and he got home after doing 2 12 hours in a row. And this morning, he's like, I'm at 20%. Right. So that's our way to check in of like where I'm feeling. I have 20% of my usual to give. Please don't ask me to do a ton. Like, please change what you're going to ask of me today to reflect that 20%. And our kids aren't good at doing that for themselves yet. So we have to look at what their body is saying to us as to where they are on that spectrum. If they get up bright, happy, they're like up, bouncing around, they have a ton of energy, that's probably a great day. If they drag themselves out of bed in the morning and then come down and the first thing they do is complain about, oh, I don't want, eggs for breakfast. I really wanted cereal this morning, right? That's my son's go-to. I'm not in a great mood. Like, give me something crunchy cereal wise in the morning. We don't do it all that often,
Yeah.
but we keep like a thing of Three Wishes cereal in the back of the cupboard, and that's his thing. So I knew when he came downstairs this morning that now I'm dealing with two people this morning who have way less to give than usual, right? His routine was thrown off. Dad wasn't home for the weekend. He played with his friend yesterday. He also is at probably what I would gauge is like 30 to 40%. So we swapped the routine this morning. We took off, do all of our homeschool subjects. So we got to pick one of the four we're doing. Then we went to the park. So my nanny bundled them up, took them out, is going to let them run around, get some energy back from being in nature, being outside. And then we'll reassess and see where he's at. Maybe we need to split up the last three subjects, or maybe we need to do one tomorrow instead. But that's the beauty of being able to kind of have the conversation, even if it's with the outside signs of their body and getting to know how to gauge that instead of
Yeah.
having to do it, exactly tell me where you're at right now. I can expect that of my husband. I can't quite expect
Yeah.
that of my 7-year-old yet, right? My 6.5.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. I'm going to start using the 20% in my adult relationships. So, like, hey, I am barely hanging on here.
Yep. I'm 20%. Oh, I woke up today at like 80%. It's a good day, right? I've got a lot of extra. My body budget's good. I feel like whatever we want to use, spoons, body budget, I have enough today that I can give. I can get up and do things.
Yeah. I love that so much. So I could do this literally all day. I could talk to you and learn, but I'm sure our listeners are like, oh, where can I find her? And stop being selfish. So if you would love to tell everyone where they can find you or any upcoming things that you have going on, I would love to share that.
Yeah, so within functional medicine, I really specialize in maternal health. So I love helping moms, especially from the beginning of um, motherhood, right from the start, kind of getting into that growth mindset, getting their nutrition needs met, getting everything else set up. So I do a lot of postpartum care at Latched Nourished Thriving, which is my website, LATCHED, Latched Nourished Thriving. I also do some with my husband. So my husband is also a DO physician. He's a clinical hypnotist, and he runs a hypnosis program for neurodivergent adults, and that's called Connection Craft. So you can find us both at either point. But we love having these conversations, and I would be happy to be back on with you.
I love it so much. I have learned so much. It's always, I come in and I'm like, okay, be selfish. What can we learn? But like today was mind blowing, even for me. You are a gold mine of knowledge, and I know that everybody listening's eating this up. So thank you for bringing your brilliance to chaos and caffeine. And to the listeners, if you love this convo, make sure to check out her work and her husband's work. And we would love to have you back on, maybe both of you back on if he's interested.
I would love to be back. Yes.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Davis, for your time.
Thank you.
Phew, parents, was that not a total mind blowing episode? Dr. Lauren Davis just gave us a masterclass in how functional medicine and holistic nutrition can actually make a real difference for our ADHD kiddos. No fluff, no generic advice, just straight up game changing insights. If you love this episode, do me a favor, hit the follow button and leave a review, but most importantly, share it with your fellow ADHD warrior parents because let's be real, we're all in the trenches together, and the more we know, the better we can support our kids. And hey, if you're sitting there thinking, wow, I need more of this in my life, make sure to check out Dr. Lauren Davis and all of the incredible resources she has. I'll drop her links in the show notes, so give her a follow and soak up all that wisdom. Until next time, keep your coffee strong, your patience stronger, and remember, you're not alone in this ADHD parenting chaos. You've got this. I'll see you guys in the next episode.